The BMW X3 is the fastest selling luxury vehicle so far in 2026. It's actually edged out the venerable Lexus RX. What's going on? Why is everybody deciding to buy the brand new BMW X3? I'm going to talk about that, share some of the statistics between the two models, why everybody is buying the new BMW, and why you should buy one too. Let's get into it now. Life's too short to drive boring cars. The latest statistics as of April 2026 shows that BMW sold over 17,000 brand new X3 BMWs. Now, it must be noted, the BMW X3s have a variety of different drives. You can get the X3 30i, you can get the 40M 40i, you can get the X3M. You can get all kinds of different variations and plug-in hybrids, and the same with the Lexus. Lexus also has plug-in hybrids, regular hybrids, performance hybrids, but we're comparing apples to apples. That's the turbocharged four-cylinder engines, and I think it's worth noting that BMW's come up a long ways, and if you look at some of the latest statistics by Consumers Reports, you'll find BMW making its way up the top, outselling, outpacing, but also having better reliability than cars like Hondas, Acuras, and honestly, in some cases, many Toyotas. BMW with the X3 30i has the B48, and that's been revised generation over generation. Finally, BMW's really nailed it and created a product that's very reliable, a modular type engine. Of course, an engine that has heat encapsulation, prevents the high and low temperature swings. It has a better bottom end, better fuel system, and it's also made it up, of course, to the ZF 8-speed automatic, which is honestly the industry's best transmission, and I love it. I had it in my Jag F-Type, and it's the best. It knows what you're doing, it's fast, it's reliable, and it's packaged small, so it fits in just about any chassis. On the other hand, Lexus is dealing with some new challenges. Of course, the new Lexus RX 350, they've only got this engine, has been around for a couple of years. The 2.4-liter Turbo 4 is now placed into a lot of their different models. You're finding it even in the Tacomas and many other variations, but they shoehorn that into the base trim of the RX. It hasn't totally proven itself yet. Now, the Lexus RX doesn't show to be particularly problematic, but let's compare these two vehicles and talk about where each one comes a little bit short, some of the recalls and classic issues. Now, currently, there's a couple of major recalls going on. BMW has one for the 2026 X3 that affects the steering. There's an inadvertent movement in the steering wheel. Could happen when you're driving, could happen when you're stationary. I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these vehicles now. They're electric. You have the CPUs and the computers really controlling the vast majority of everything on board. It reads all the sensors and provides feedback. Steering, brakes, everything now is controlled electronically, and that doesn't stand alone for BMW. Lexus is doing very similar things. That's an over-the-air update, and that's rectified at the dealer level. On the other side, Lexus has an issue right now with, of course, backup cameras. Now, most would argue that's hardly an issue. Small potatoes. But right, until you run over something because you got frustrated because your camera didn't operate. Or, more importantly, there's also some building alleged conversations about the 8-speed automatic torque converter trannies over in Toyota and Lexus land that have been becoming faulty. They can't tolerate hard use. And there's also potentially and allegedly a class action lawsuit or a lawsuit where a gentleman had an issue with his car because of that 8-speed auto. Maybe isn't built up to task, maybe can't tolerate the torque. But whatever it is, it does seem to be some hustle bustle, some chitter chatter about that very issue. Now, overall, if you're driving these vehicles, both of them in city environments and casually, and you're not towing a lot of weight, both of them will probably operate quite squarely. But let's be honest, BMW absolutely has the transmission in spades over the Lexus. Regardless if that failure exists or not, BMW ZF 8-speed is one of the most legendary and best in the industry. Again, I've had it in my F-Type. It's usually available to throw in auto mode. It knows how to predict your behaviors depending on how much throttle input. It'll shift up, shift down accordingly. And you can even shift it too with paddle shifters. It's just a very, very progressive and aggressive and a quick shifting transmission. You can even tune them and provide even a better level of shift performance. Now, who's more reliable, really, when you cut down to the chase? I've seen and owned and had friends with all of these vehicles. And let's be honest, Consumers Reports ranks BMW at just slightly above average. And Lexus is probably the industry gold standard for durability and reliability. That said, That's an overall blended average. The RX, again, has a slightly untrue and untested 2.4-liter turbo 4. And granted, it's been around a couple of years, but you never really know how something's going to last until 5, 8, 10 years down the road. Then it's telling. We know their old outgoing 3.5-liter V6 was durable, but that went bye-bye. So it's not totally fair to assume the 2.4 is as reliable as the 3.5. Now, that being said, I don't want to sign off on it. And truth be told, I'd rather have the 3.5-liter V6. So basically, we're comparing a 2-liter turbo 4 compared to a 2.4-liter turbo 4 in the Lexus. BMWs had noted some quality issues with thin glass that can break, sensor faults and issues, that steering recall we spoke so dearly of, and a general pattern. We're going to likely see issues with oil filter housing, gaskets, mixing, oil leaks, coolant leaks possibly, even access to some of the maintenance is a little bit tighter. There's also been some discussion with the X-Drive systems in the late model BMWs that could see potential failures outside of warranty. Now, most would argue that you do need to maintain a lot of this equipment. Your transfer case, your differentials, it all has fluids and it all needs changing from time to time. Now, the sad part is BMW in many cases has suggested that it's lifetime fluid in the transmissions or the transfer case. But now as we're starting to find out, realistically, you probably should maintain it. And at some level, you maybe need to take care of that oil fluid change just to keep that transfer case in one piece. Because that, in fact, has been a topic of conversation across the forums. On the Lexus, on the other hand, no significant issues there other than what potentially could be building with these torque converter automatic transmissions. Time will tell there too. And again, the proven reliability isn't entirely there for both of these brands. From my own personal experience, BMWs hold up tenfold over any Toyota, Honda, Lexus product. Any of the Japanese brands generally don't resist corrosion as well as brands like BMW. BMW's been doing a great job with their metallurgy. So if there's nothing more frustrating than having a car that's 7 or 8 years old and starting to see little bubbles and corrosion, that's frustrating. Because to me, in my mind, you can rebuild a starter, you can put a new water pump in, but when the body starts to rust away, who wants that crap? In this case, what I'm finding Lexus quite often is more fragile, more flimsy, the brakes aren't as sturdy, the suspension is more prone to failure, and of course with the corrosion issues, the infotainment failures that we find typically, and the bugs related to some of the electronics, Lexus definitely has their own issues, but it tends to be more electric, where BMW might have water pumps, thermostats, and cooling lines might be the issues that you have to search for there. That being said, remember, the B48 in the BMW is notoriously reliable these days. Consumer Reports love them, Repair Pal doesn't mind them either, and pretty much every critic these days would agree that the B48 engine in the BMW with 255 horsepower is a real gem, and one that often gets overlooked with the assumption that it's going to be unreliable like some of their older engines, the N20s or the N54s. Those are in the past. The B48s and the B58s, which is the inline-six version of the same vehicle, are absolutely workhorses. Are they perfect? No. But they're durable and everything can break. I've got friends driving Acuras and Lexus vehicles, and they've had failures too. They've had to make unexpected trips to the dealer as well. So nothing's perfect, but remember, BMW's come up a long ways. But see, there's a trump card that BMW has, which is why a lot of people are buying these. The safety ratings for BMWs are arguably some of the best in the industry, and it's catching people's attention. It's caught my attention. They're truly one of the most reliable from the practical and the safety perspective. A lot of people are also appreciating the overall dynamics, the driving handling, the capabilities, the brakes, the acceleration. With 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds with the BMW, it's going to be marginally quicker than the Lexus, which is probably closer to 6.25 seconds, making the BMW a little bit quicker. Remember, apples to apples, they're both turbo 4s. On top of it, the BMW absolutely dominates in the handling department. It has dynamics only Lexus owners could dream. Now, I love Lexus vehicles, and certain models like the IS, definitely do catch my eye. I love the LCs, but when we're talking about some of these SUVs, a lot of people assume that it's an SUV. It's going to be wallowy. It's going to be floaty. It's going to drive and sail like a simple little vehicle. It's not going to have the racing car dynamics. It doesn't need to. It's a people mover and just a basic mode of transportation. BMW manufacturers and many BMW owners would argue and say, well, wait a minute. Why can't you have your cake and eat it too? Why can't you have a car that goes fast, handles like it's on rails, stops like you want it to, and features all kinds of great mood lighting, technology inside, and feels like it's built with quality components. The BMW is no more expensive than the Lexus vehicle, and the Lexus starts around $50,000 to $50,500 for the base trim, the 350, which we speak of today, where BMW starts around $51,000, so that extra $1,000 is more or less a wash. These 2026 BMW X3 also have some very cool features, which I really love. When I've seen these vehicles up close, the last one that I drove really did brighten my day. I look around and I'm really impressed with the overall quality. Now, that being said, there's some funny comments here because standard features like the perforated vegan leather upholstery. Vegan leather. Isn't that a bit of an oxymoron? Isn't vegan like, clearly it must be their version of some kind of polyester or some kind of poly product. However, whatever it is, it always feels well put together, very, very well made. It also gets heated front sport seats as standard, a multitude of different ambient lighting colors, which makes it great, reds or greens or blues, depending on your mood. Wireless phone charging, which is big, and Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility. And both vehicles come with a sunroof, all kinds of great safety features and technology, and really they have a different design theme and concept, but ultimately they're more or less the same vehicle, vouching for the same dollars from the same consumers. So which one do you buy? A lot of these base models, like the Lexus RX 350 or the BMW X3 30i, attract the entry point. Those are the entry point for each particular model. And for me, it would go with the BMW. You get the better handling dynamics, better acceleration, better fuel economy even. A few years ago, when I test drove the up-and-coming latest generation of the X3 back in 2019, I was truly stunned and amazed at how well it handled. I happened to drive the X3 40i, which a local dealer lent to me, and I used that for about a week. I loved it. I got used to it. It was easy to use. The technology was robust. Nothing ever failed. There was no glitches, no hiccups, no nothing. You know, when they talk about technology failing, I didn't see a but iota. They worked perfectly. The car handled well, and with the 40i, the B58 was an absolute beast. It was beautiful, luxurious, and wonderful. Now, the latest generation has changed a little bit. They've got a mild hybrid. The start-stop system's a little smoother now, but ultimately it's more or less the same drivetrain. So that takes me to the BMW. A lot of customers looked at these cars in one of two ways. Either you wanted a reliable SUV, so you'd go with the likes of Lexus and Acura, or you wanted something that felt more luxurious, more special. You bought a Benz or a Beamer. But guess what? Today's a different time, and in 2026, we're starting to see the trends, with more people buying the X3 over the RX gas version. It's pretty clear to me that because BMW now has finally elevated themselves in durability, reliability that they never had before. They finally created a product that they could say, you can have your cake and eat it too. You can have a vehicle that's reasonably reliable. You can have a vehicle that's probably going to run over 200,000 miles, or as long as you even care to own it. You can have a vehicle that has all the safety features and technology, and you can have a vehicle that drives like it's on rails, that drives like its smaller brothers, the 2 and the 3 Series BMWs. Yes, you can drive an SUV that feels like a car, whereas Lexus is still sticking to what they know. A soft, wallowy SUV that's reliable. It's practical. It's probably not going to let you down. It's that good old reliable dog that just hangs around and he's always out there walking with you in the field, but it isn't going to do much more than that. It's going to be comfortable, it's going to be reliable, and you know what? On the other flip side, the Lexus is likely going to return a slightly better and enhanced value retention over the BMW. The flip side, the improved fuel economy that you're getting from the BMW means some of that extra cost savings that you're getting from the Lexus, you're going to get back on fuel savings with the BMW because it does better ratings. So ultimately, if I've got $50,000 to spend, am I going to jump on the wagon like everybody else who's now seen something that we haven't seen in years? Yes, I am. And in fact, I too would buy the 2026 BMW X3 30i, probably even above and beyond the Lexus RX. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Again, as always, right there, be sure to check out right there my personal favorites from Lexus World, and also there, my personal favorites from BMW World. Hope to see each and every one of you real soon. Catch you then. Bye-bye.